Hey, man, all I know is you want Aaron. This is a trap door, by the way, that I just put you into. You just said you want Aaron Rodgers to go to the Vikings and be their savior, and Zach Wilson won more games with the same Jets roster than what Aaron Rodgers was able to do last year. And you're out on Zach. I don't get it.
Hey,
I don't get it.
I'm going to crawl out of the trap door. I'm absolutely going to crawl out of the trap door because the Vikings would not have to pay Aaron Rodgers what the Jets paid Aaron Rodgers. They would get a significantly less amount of money as a plan A at quarterback with immediate plan B sitting there, J.J. McCarthy in the wings.
Why is he a plan B? Why would J.J. McCarthy be a plan B?
Because it worked out for the Packers and Jordan Love.
If Rodgers got less production out of the Jets, and again, they fortified that roster even more for Rodgers in that second year after the Achilles tear. He got less wins, less production out of the Jets offense than Zach Wilson did the year before.
It's one situation. It's one situation where there has not been historical success. You are now going into recent history success with the Minnesota Vikings, who won 14 games last year with Sam Darnold, who we believe might flop, crash, and burn with the Seahawks. I think Aaron Rodgers is a significant increase in production and talent at quarterback than Sam Darnold was.
He's not, because they both played football last year. In fact, they played against each other, and one of those dudes threw the game away, whereas the other guy threw a couple of big touchdowns that put the game away. And that's Sam Darnold getting the win over Aaron Rodgers, by the way. Also, for Aaron Rodgers, I don't understand what makes you think that this guy would be something that would help. Because, again, no matter who they get, the future is J.J. McCarthy. We can agree.
Yes.
Kevin O'Connell believes in the future of that quarterback out of Michigan.
But also, yes, I believe that.
Yeah.
But we're seeing how quickly organizations are willing to give up on their quarterbacks. So if you start them too early, maybe the future isn't J.J. McCarthy in 2027.
Unless you are a competent franchise and you have a legitimate coach in your locker room like Kevin O'Connell. He's proven himself to be a guy that can squeeze the most out of his players offensively. That's why Sam Darnold performed so well in the regular season, 14 wins for them. I don't want to talk about what happened in the last couple of games. That's neither here nor there. But it's also why Kevin O'Connell, I think, has the confidence to say, JJ's ready now. He had a year to learn my system. I was able to work with him, and he didn't have to go out there and play under fire. We didn't have to throw him out there too early. I believe they feel like it's time for him. And the two things that signal that to me is, number one, they didn't even franchise tag Sam Darnold. They let him walk for free, for nothing. That's number one. Number two, you had Daniel Jones in-house, and you said, I think we're good. $14 million especially. We're definitely good because we know what we have in our quarterback room here. And I don't understand why you would mess up that chemistry or that amount of faith in a guy like J.J. McCarthy to go and get Aaron Rodgers, who we both know Rodgers doesn't come to your facility this year to back up anybody. If he comes, he's coming to start. And you at the very least owe J.J. McCarthy an opportunity to get on the field this year or to play his way through camp and win the quarterback battle and show what he's got after a year of sitting, after how frustrating I'm sure that rehab journey has been for him. You owe that to J.J. McCarthy at least to give him a bite at the apple, a shot. And bringing in Rodgers does the exact opposite.
1 year of Rodgers, the situation is understood.
What?
That Rodgers is there for two things.
What do you think J.J. would say?
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. I never had a chance to really prove anything yet. Rodgers has a 20-year NFL career to back up that he might be able to win with this Vikings roster right now.
He hasn't been good since J.J. was in high school. Last time Aaron Rodgers was good, J.J. McCarthy was throwing the ball to, kids that just got out of sixth grade science.
Sure, they missed the playoffs, but Rodgers was not a bad quarterback in his last season with the Packers. They missed the playoffs.
Yes, he was.
He lost on his record.
Yeah, it was a bad season. That was a bad season, especially for a guy. Like, if he missed the playoffs with that roster, with that team, and he missed it by losing to the Lions, I believe, at home in the last game of the regular season.
Yes.
So that was pretty much a playoff game. If we're going to knock Sam Darnold for the Week 18 loss against the Lions, we got to knock Aaron Rodgers for that same voyage in which he didn't even make the postseason. He did that, and that was, 22? That was 22.
Yeah, because injured 23, played all 2024 with the Jets.
Right. So his last good year was 2021. That wasn't a good year in 22. You can't just give him a attaboy, a pat on the back. That was a bad year, especially if you don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, he also, I believe, did he not have Devontae Adams that year either?
No, he didn't.
Okay. He was kind of throwing the plumbers and
Jordan Love didn't have
architects.
Devontae Adams the next year. Guess where the Packers ended their season? With a
Where?
playoff win. Very next season. So, again, I'm giving you data points that are directly tied to Aaron Rodgers. I'm giving you the quarterback that was in the position he was in the year before and the quarterback he was in the position the year after. And in both cases, Rodgers was the worst performing one. And we're talking about Zach Wilson and Jordan Love here. They hope J.J. McCarthy's better than both of those dudes. That's what they hope the future is like with J.J. in Minneapolis.
But signing Aaron Rodgers does not mean that you automatically are getting rid of J.J. McCarthy or that J.J. McCarthy can't start week 5 if you realize this was a mistake.
No, why would you do that? You're not bringing in a future Hall of Fame quarterback to bench him 4 games in anyways. And if you think that's a possibility, what's the point of even bringing the old fart in, who, by the way, was terrible last year? And he was terrible with all of the pieces in place that he wanted. His offensive coordinator, his buddy Devontae Adams, who's also like apparently a really good receiver still by the way that the Rams paid him. He had Garrett Wilson, who should be a top 10 receiver in the league this year. Tyler Conklin's a good receiving option. Really good running game. They fortified the offensive line. And what did Rodgers get you? 5 wins. Because he's old, he can't move, and he's afraid of pressure. He's more afraid of pressure than Jared Goff these days because he can't move. He's scared to get hurt again. Just throwing the ball, hiking and throw it.
One situation. At the Jets situation, you do not often win with the Jets. And he was another data point of that.
He told us he would do it, though.
Sure, and he didn't. And we can all agree that Aaron Rodgers is not a good GM. If he goes to the Vikings, it would be vastly different in the process. The result is TBD in that it actually happens and if it actually works. But you're going from a functional franchise from a dysfunctional franchise with the Jets, where the roles would be very clearly defined that his job is to get J.J. McCarthy ready for the future and win now. Because a very humbling situation for Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. He cannot deny that him playing GM, him playing culture setter, didn't work.
I wish I could remember who told me this recently, but because I want to credit, it was a great saying. He said, "You never see a duck hanging out with a goose." What the hell are you talking about? Country ass. And what he was saying is, this is what his coaches and the people that mentored him in his life always told him is, you don't want to be hanging out with somebody who is not like you, that is not equally yoked as you, that doesn't have the same characteristics, personality, the same drive, the same motivation, the same moral ethics. Like, you don't want to be tied in with somebody who is walking a walk that you don't actually align with. What about Aaron Rodgers gives he should be big brother to J.J. McCarthy, outside of the fact that they play the same position?
If that's his only option, he still wants to play football.
Who? Rodgers?
Yes.
No, Rodgers would. First of all, I think Aaron Rodgers would sign up tomorrow to play for the Minnesota Vikings, and able to do so. It's not like it's a contract dispute or anything like that. He's getting paid $30 million anyways by the Jets. They could pay him the veteran minimum. It could be the same thing that Russell Wilson did. He'll be fairly, what do you call it? Compensated. So money's not the issue here, and situation's not the issue. That's a perfect situation. I'm telling you, the Vikings don't want nothing to do with that dude. And I never, ever, on any topic in the NFL specifically or food, agree with this man. But here is, and again, if I'm throwing to this dude, you know it must be raining or it must be a hailstorm in hell. Here's Dan Orlovsky on Rodgers to the Vikings.
That would be a mistake by the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota, you've made the determination, the decision to allow Sam Darnold to go. You've now declared, listen, this is more than likely J.J. McCarthy's football team, and we want it to be J.J. McCarthy's football team. Aaron comes with a lot. Whether people like it or not, it's a lot. Do not bring that into your building. Do not bring that into your football team. You're handing the keys over to a young player and saying, this is going to be your opportunity. Yes. Lead us forward. And bringing Aaron Rodgers in is going to hinder that in some capacity, stunt that in some capacity.